October 1st, something happened here in Las Vegas that forever changed the nature of how people treat each other. It forever changed the landscape of how Vegas would be viewed. But it also developed a reservoir of hope that began to spring up out of tragedy. And when you're in a crisis situation, you always run to something to find hope. A lot of people here in Vegas ran to the two people sitting next to me, Pastors Paul and Denise Goulet of the International Church of Las Vegas. Take me back, if you will, to October 1st, a year ago, when this unfortunate tragedy unfolded in your city. What was your response immediately?
Well, even when you ask that question, I I get emotional.
Yeah.
Because you brought us back to that night when we were actually going to bed, and someone texted me and said, "There's something going on at the Strip. Pray." And so I immediately we turned on the TV. I text one of our police officers to go to our church and someone from SWAT. These are two of my dear friends, and I said, "I don't know where you are right now, but I'm praying that God uses you and protects you. I don't know what's going on, I just know it's bad."
Yeah.
And so we spent time in bed that night just praying, not knowing, and I don't know how long we went. But that was our first response, immediately calling two people from our church, "Be careful, God's going to use you." And so that's how it started.
And we had a hard time believing how it was going. It was worse and worse and worse, and it didn't seem to be ending. And then it changed Las Vegas.
Forever.
From that moment on.
Yeah,
Las
that moment
Vegas
on.
wasn't the same. Of course, it was absolutely paralyzing what was taking place, and you wanted to know how you could help.
Yeah.
What could we do at this moment, and who, and how many, and so many people were affected. Yeah.
Something you mentioned, how you had been watching the news and then you felt compelled to reach out and help.
Yeah.
And you talk about the confusion and the doubt and the uncertainty of wondering if your friends who are working with the Las Vegas Police Department, if they're okay. Not to mention maybe some of your church members who may have loved going to see some of the greatest country music artists on the planet.
Yeah.
And so here's this wonderful event going on. It's a festival, and it turns into a tragic nightmare. How do you help people grasp that in the immediate wake of that?
Well, one of the things that happened is that one of the two people that I texted that night ended up being the first police officer on the floor. So he's a regular cop, and he wasn't even on duty there. He actually just drove there when he heard, and somehow supernaturally, he says he parked right under where the shooter was shooting.
Wow.
Made his way to the top floor. Now picture that we're praying in our bedroom, not knowing that he's actually the first one on the floor, he and his partner. They called up the SWAT unit, and the SWAT unit went in. So did we know that somebody from our church, he was just honored last week at the White House.
I wasn't there. I was at the other event here in Las Vegas that honored him.
And
that's great.
It's just amazing that when we immediately prayed that God would move through the normal people in our church. And he ends up becoming a hero. And the next morning, I'd been quite sick the year prior, and Denise was carrying all the daily duties, and I would preach on Sundays and rest during the week because I was really, really sick and I almost died. But that morning I woke up, and as clear as day, because I don't hear voices or anything when I pray, but I get thoughts. And I said, "God," I started crying for Las Vegas. I said, "What do I do?" And he says, "Go back to work." I said, "Lord, I can't go back to work. I'm sick and I'm hurting." He goes, "But the people are hurting more, Paul. They need you."
Wow.
And so the next morning I show up at work, I gathered our whole staff, and I said, "Listen, what are the major problems right now? Let's target like the top 10 problems." And so Denise had been running the whole show, the whole team, and so we gathered everybody together. We started looking at the major problems, and then Denise says, "I'm going to go here," and someone else says, "I'm going to go there." And so we just put people across our city, hospitals and the morgue and everything else. So that was our responses. I went back to work, and I've been back to work every day since. And God made me stronger and stronger.